Today on Week in Review, the Order of Terrace made its return for the first time since 2016. There's a new CT scanner at the Kitimat General Hospital, and what can we expect for students this year in the Northwest? Hello, I'm Damian Smith, and thank you for joining us here on Week in Review, where we recap all the news in the Northwest. Additional charges have been sworn by police in the investigation that led to the arrest of Nathan Rinsma. On August 31st at approximately 7:45 a.m., the Terrace RCMP received a report of a possible aggravated assault where one woman was seriously injured. The North District Emergency Response Team was then deployed to help locate him, and Rinsma was arrested on September 3rd. The additional charges sworn include attempted murder, forcible confinement, aggravated assault, use of firearm while committing an offense, and to possess a firearm for the purpose of committing an offense. The investigation, which began on August 31st after a report of serious assault involving two victims, led to two search warrants being sought out for residences in Thornhill. These search warrants resulted in the seizure of cash, ammunition, weapons, illicit drugs, and firearms. Rinsma remains in custody at this time, with the next court appearance scheduled for October 4th. And this investigation is ongoing, and the Terrace RCMP asked that anyone with any information about the offenses to contact the Terrace RCMP at 250-638-7400. Well, the Order of Terrace made its return for the first time since 2016 with 6 nominations for their contributions to the city.
Alphabetical order tonight's 2024 Order of Terrace Award recipients are Patty Chapman, Lynn Christensen, Marilyn Davies, Bonnie Juniper, Dr. Michael Kenyon, and Carol Leclerc. Let's give these fine folks all around.
For the first time since 2016, the Order of Terrace made its return to Coast Mountain College on Wednesday night, and 6 people from the area received awards from Mayor Sean Buyutash, contributing to growth in the Terrace community. Patty Chapman was awarded for her contributions towards the Terrace Library, where she was chair of the board for 9 years.
Sad she wasn't here today, but really well deserving.
And it was a pleasure to be able to work with Patty on the library board.
Lynn Christensen was the longest serving city councillor and was a big factor in the farmers market.
Very committed on council, very focused on the social issues, the historic issues, the artistic issues and stuff like that. And it was a pleasure to have that opportunity to serve on council with Lynn.
Marilyn Davies, who was a jack of all trades, played a role in music, teaching, performing arts, and also served on the city council.
Just an absolute fierce lady and involved, as it was said today, involved in so many different things between the golf course, the music festival, and starting that with other folks.
And always a really fun sense of humor. Like, she had these one-liners. It's like, my God, I wish I could think that fast like she could.
Bonnie Juniper has been the person for musical influence in the Terrace community for many decades.
I don't ever remember Bonnie not being involved in the music scene in Terrace.
She taught my kids piano, and they're in their late 30s, early 40s, so we're going back 35 years ago for Bonnie teaching my kids.
Dr. Michael Kenyon, though living on Vancouver Island, still maintains a practice here in Terrace and trained many internists in the medical field.
He has touched the lives of many people who've had complicated health issues, and thank God that he's here, because he's a problem solver. He doesn't give up, and he just keeps going after whatever somebody's issue is.
And while the event was emceed by Buyutash, former Mayor Carol Leclerc was nominated, and it was fitting for Buyutash since he took over her role in 2022.
Her words just sit in my head, and it's always Sean, take the high road, and I continue to live by that, and Carol shared that with me. But I think Carol can really hang her hat on the fact that we have a brand new hospital that's just about to open in this community, and it was under her as the mayor of Terrace lobbying hard that got us across the finish line, and we're going to see that new hospital open soon, and thanks to her hard work.
It's just so nice to share this wonderful honor with my family, and I've been able to kind of keep my granddaughters in the loop of things, like kind of inviting them along. So when I got the award tonight, I brought them up with me, because I think it's important for them to have a positive female role model in their lives, and something, being a mayor, they still talk about it. I haven't been mayor for 2 years, so I'm really pleased to be able to know that that's made a positive influence on their life.
From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
A release was recently sent out by BC Hydro disclosing that they are planning on triggering a power outage this upcoming Sunday in a big part of the Bulkley Valley, covering mainly the area between Telkwa and Kitwanga. The outage will last from 7 a.m. to around 5 p.m. and is being done so that BC Hydro's crews can do a transmission line relocation safely at Telkwa's local substation. The work being done here is also connected with BC Hydro's Prince George to Terrace Capacitator Stations project, which is planning on increasing capacity on the company's transmission line spanning between Prince George and Terrace so that they can meet their needs of their customers. The project will also see BC Hydro install 3 new capacitator stations near Burns Lake, Vanderhoof, and Telkwa. Now, funding has been committed and planning has begun for a new CT scanner and unit at Kitimat General Hospital. CFTK's Jayleen Matthews has more.
A new CT scanner unit and a newly renovated department will allow the Kitimat Hospital to deliver a range of clinical and diagnostic services. Computed tomography, CT, is an advanced imaging tool commonly used for diagnosing and assessing trauma patients, as well as those with a wide range of conditions, including stroke and cancer. Funds for the $4.7 million investment were a group effort with contributions from the province, as well as from the Kitimat Hospital Foundation, which contributed $2.4 million through community donors. Improved access to CT will provide physicians with the information to diagnose and treat patients sooner, and potentially further reduce the need for patient travel. Northern Health says the new diagnostic services available in the community will assist with recruitment of physicians, specialists, and nurses. This effort coincides with the Kitimat Healthcare Professionals Attraction and Retention Strategy. The Kitimat General Hospital's emergency department was closed for 14-hour periods 6 times in August and once so far in September. For CFTK News, I'm Jayleen Matthews.
Now, police in Terrace have concluded their investigation into the suspicious death that saw an area near Brook Street closed off for days. The body was found in the nearby wooded area on the evening of August 15th, and the death was initially deemed suspicious, but following the results of the autopsy, police have ruled out criminality. The identity of the deceased has not been released publicly at the moment. Up next, we'll get a glimpse of who will be running locally for the upcoming provincial election. With the BC election fast approaching, the time's come to learn more about our local candidates. And once again, here's Jayleen Matthews.
2 all-candidates forums have been scheduled so far around the Northwest. In the North Coast riding, we are saying goodbye to MLA Jennifer Rice, and we're meeting 2 new candidates, Tamara Davidson representing the NDP and Chris Sankey for the BC Conservatives. The North Coast All Candidates Forum will take place on September 25th, 2024 at the Lester Centre in Prince Rupert. Attendees are encouraged to ask a question beforehand, and submissions can be made at the Prince Rupert Chamber's website. And in the Skeena riding, there will be an all-candidates forum presented at the Kitimat Chamber of Commerce on the same day, Wednesday, September 25th, from 7 to 8:30 at the Mount Elizabeth Theatre. At this forum, we will hear from Conservative candidate Claire Rattay and NDP candidate Sarah Zimmerman. Current MLA for Skeena Ellis Ross will not be running for provincial re-election. For CFTK News, I'm Jayleen Matthews.
The Terrace RCMP advanced their investigation into the fatal hit and run on September 8th in the area of Old Lake Hells Lake Drive and Clark Street in Terrace. On September 10th, officers obtained evidence leading them to identifying a vehicle owned by a local taxi company as the suspect vehicle. Officers have since located the vehicle and seized it, and the company is working with the Terrace RCMP and are fully cooperating in the investigation to determine the incident's cause, and officers did identify the driver, who's since fled Canada. The Terrace RCMP said their General Investigation Section is leading the investigation and are working tirelessly to bring the matter to the BC Prosecution Service for more charge assessment. Well, MLA Ellis Ross won't be running for re-election, but his office will be staying open for assistance. Here's Jaylene Matthews with more information on why.
When the writ drops on September 21st, Ellis Ross will no longer be the Skeena MLA.
So the writ drops on September 21st, and the election is October 19th, which I will not be running in. But the office, we all talked about it and just said, for all the people that still need help with government programs, this office needs to remain open, at least as a transition period, depending on who our next MLA is going to be for Skeena.
And constituents will still have access to services.
Normally what we help with government programs, so if you have issues with, say, ICBC, for example, or Ministry of Highways, or anything to do with a landlord-tenant relationship, anything that's got to do with a government program.
For CFTK News in Terrace, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Well, it was recently publicly revealed by the Prince Rupert's deputy city manager at their most recent city council meeting that a major construction project is being postponed. The project in question is the creation of a roundabout for Prince Rupert's McBride Street and 2nd Ave West intersection that is being funded by the BC provincial government. At the most recent discussion with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, it led to them discovering that they were having some issues in buying a nearby property, which is a requirement that must be met before the work can actually begin. The project, which will cost about $18 million, was supposed to begin in February of this year, but instead has been pushed back to February of next year. The Terrace RCMP have put out yet another notice letting the public know that they are seeking out a suspect seemingly involved in a crime from a little while back. Back on August 7th, the man who is pictured on the RCMP's website made his way into the local Mark's Warehouse location and allegedly took some merchandise without paying for it, and then reportedly went back to the store the next day to do the same thing. With it being over a month since these incidents occurred and the police being seemingly no longer to discovering the man's identity, they've turned to asking for public assistance to learn who the man is. Those who do have any useful information that could lead to the suspect's capture are asked to call the Terrace RCMP at 250-638-7400 or BC Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. After the break, changes are being made to CMSD with a new superintendent on the way. Welcome back. Well, an enforcement push against alleged drug traffickers by Prince George Mounties resulted in over a dozen charges against 3 people. Police say their investigation in the summer and fall of 2023 showed that traffickers were being supported by drug lines in the Lower Mainland that had ties to BC's gang conflict. Officers served warrants in Prince George and Langley last October and seized a large quantity of illicit drugs, ammunition, and body armor. And 2 women and a man faced a total of 13 charges. The man remained in custody while the women were released with conditions. There is new and old news revolving around BC schools this upcoming year, with the ongoing teacher shortage and new rules on phone bans in the province.
We're on to our second week of school here in British Columbia with some new changes made to cell phone use for students and some ongoing issues revolving around the provincial teacher shortage.
There's a significant mental health crisis in this province related to younger people, maybe older people as well, related to the addictions of cell phones. And for us, putting learning first and foremost is our mandate, and cell phones are interfering with that.
This past spring, the ministry created a legislation that every school in the province is to create their own bring your own device policy. And at minimum, kindergarten to grade 6 phones are to be off from bell to bell, and grade 7 to 12 is off limits in class, but permissible in hallways, lunch tables, and more.
Cell phones are interfering with students achieving their full potential, and it's causing mental health challenges, and therefore the requirement for the legislation.
However, expectations will remain for students with learning disabilities as the Code of Conduct cites student accessibility, communication, and autonomy. Teacher recruitment also remains an issue that the province is still looking to fix, with a number of job postings still on the Coast Mountains School District website.
I would like to acknowledge the work that school district staff have done in the past several years on the recruitment and retention issue. However, I will tell you that I'm not optimistic about the teacher shortage ending anytime soon. Our demographic is in such a place that within the next 5 years we're going to see quite an exodus from our district for retirement. And I don't see the recruitment retention issue. Well, I see the retention issue improving, absolutely. I'm very optimistic about that. The recruitment part is going to remain a challenge. I continue to be in awe of the people with whom I get to work. And I'm very, very appreciative of them. And I look forward to the work that's going to happen with the new superintendent, Tracy McMillan, who will be joining us on October the 7th.
McMillan recently served as superintendent of schools in the Stikine School District and will replace Meyer after a 34-year career working in District 82. From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
Now, Mounties in the North District stated that its major crime unit managed to arrest one individual allegedly related to a homicide that's about a year old. They said that the suspect from Smithers was charged with second-degree murder last weekend in connection with a shooting that occurred in September of last year. Last September, the Smithers RCMP got a call reporting that a male had been shot in a vehicle outside of a residence, and police responded to the scene and found a victim who later succumbed to his injuries. Police said that the suspect was arrested without any incident on September 6th in Kelowna. Still to come, it's getting harder and harder for BC residents to obtain a family doctor. According to a recent statement by the BC Deputy Chief, Forester Tree Farm License number 41, which is located south of Terrace, is set to keep covering 128,000 cubic meters by the allowable annual cut as a way to keep supporting sustainable forestry in the Terrace area. The area mentioned covers the territory of multiple First Nations like the Haisla, Lakwalams, Kitsakalem, and the Kitsalis. The factors that are said to be a part of determining how much space each licensed area gets includes terrain stability, the harvest area's economic viability, biodiversity, as well as cultural resources. And with the new decisions being made, Tree Farm License number 41 is also set to get 2 new partitions to assist in bolstering the area's forestry sustainability practices by being a deterrent against overharvesting cedar trees. It's a problem still plaguing 700,000 BC residents that are still searching for a family doctor. Now, with just 6 weeks until Election Day, family doctors in BC say now is the time for political parties to weigh in on how they would address the doctor shortage. And as CTV's Rob Buffum reports, they're making a series of demands for whoever forms the next government.
More than 700,000 British Columbians don't have a family doctor.
You want a doctor, you put your name into a online form, and then you wait. We've been waiting 5 years.
The groups BC Family Doctors and the College of Family Physicians are urging doctors and patients to ask the parties what they do to address the crisis ahead of the BC election.
It's going to be a huge issue. I think if they don't bring that up, well, they've missed the boat.
The province's new payment model has attracted more than 800 doctors to family practice, attaching to more than 200,000 patients.
So we've kind of stopped the bleeding, but we need to take care of the wound.
The groups say nearly 40% of family doctors in the province are set to retire or reduce their clinical hours in the next 5 years.
Doctor retired, and I don't know if I can get another one.
To attract and retain more GPs, the family doctors are pushing for reduced paperwork and benefits, including paid sick leave and pensions.
You're technically getting paid by the government you're technically self-employed and you have zero benefits.
This Saanich family doctor says she does between 2 and 3 hours of paperwork every day, and cutting that in half would allow her to see 4 more patients each day.
How much better would it be if I could spend that time caring for patients rather than completing paperwork?
All the parties say they'd support cutting paperwork for family doctors, but differ fundamentally on how privatized the system should be. The BC Conservatives want a hybrid public-private model.
To a universal healthcare model just like we have today, but delivered by both government and non-government agencies.
We can abandon the progress we're making and go back, or we can go forward and keep hiring more doctors and nurses.
The Greens favor a fully public model.
Conservatives want to open the front door to privatize and corporatize healthcare. The NDP have let that come in through the back door.
For hundreds of thousands of patients, their primary concern remains a doctor's door that's open to them.
Well, this past Thursday, one woman was injured near Burns Lake from a grizzly bear attack close by Shelford Forest Service Road. While accompanied by another person, she ran into a sow with 3 cubs feeding on some berries, and the bear then attacked the woman, but she used bear spray, leading to the bear's retreat. The woman was airlifted to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Now, ahead of October's provincial election, the BC NDP claimed the BC Conservatives will reduce access to abortion and support for other reproductive health services if elected. Martin McMahon from CTV has more on that claim and how the Conservatives responded.
Women's reproductive health has been a major focus of the NDP government, from funding birth control and abortion pills to promising 1 round of IVF treatment per family, which kicks in next year.
We're the first province to make birth control free for British Columbians. We've had hundreds of thousands of British Columbians take advantage of that, saving about $10,000 over a lifetime. Able to access prescription birth control now through a pharmacist if they don't have a family doctor.
And after David Eby spent time at a pre-campaign event in Victoria going through what his government has done when it comes to reproductive health, he went on the offensive with these claims about Conservative leader John Rustad.
It's fairly safe to say that if he is at best ambivalent about reproductive freedom and at worst hostile to it, that women's access to abortion, women's access to free birth control is on the ballot this election, just like it is in the United States, just like it has been in other provinces in Canada.
Rustad responded to the attack on social media. In a post on X, he writes, "Under a BC Conservative government, access to abortion, contraception, and other items will remain exactly as it is now. There will be no changes. While abortion is largely considered a federal issue, the province still has a big part to play."
And there are all sorts of ways in which the provincial government plays a role in the provision of health services for women. So it's certainly something that can and should be addressed at the provincial level, whether we're talking about access to abortion services of various kinds or whether we're talking about access to birth control.
I requested an interview with John Rustad and was told the party has no further comment. I specifically wanted to ask about whether the Conservatives would maintain existing funding levels for abortion and other reproductive health services, but was simply directed to that social media post. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
That wraps up this week's version of Week in Review. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good night.